Thank you, thank you. Again, my name is Kris George, Managing Director of MIS, ReSource Pro Company, since October of 2022.
And my name is Sheila Simmons. I am the Director of Underwriting Operations at Midwest Employers Casualty Company.
You know, for our success story that we're going to explain today, I think it's important to understand the business model of MIS. MIS is a back office. Simply put, that a back office is both the business process outsourcing, but also the technology platform all the way through rate, quote, bind, bill for the P&C insurance industry. What's really good about this success story is due to the fact of MIS target market is captives, MGAs, program administrators, and carriers. And this success story has to do with two of those: carrier, Midwest Employers Casualty, and also a captive solution in a hard market.
Midwest Employers Casualty is a member of the W.R. Berkley Company. We specialize in excess workers' compensation for self-insured employers. That would include an individual employer, a large risk, or a group. That would be several members that get together that make the decision that collectively they can purchase excess insurance to cover them in case of a catastrophic loss.
Now, Sheila and I started in the insurance industry when we were 10 years old. So Sheila, tell everybody how long MIS and MECC have worked together as well, you and I, over the years.
So what's funny to me is, in listening earlier today, the story of ReSource Pro is very similar to Midwest Employers. We are an excess workers' comp carrier. We do that very well, but what we decided to do was to support our excess clients by providing a guaranteed cost policy as a solution for those operations that are outside of the self-insured state. When we did that, we recognized that there's a lot that has to go on with reporting to the NCCI and all of the things associated with offering a guaranteed cost policy that we did not have to do. We sucked at it, to be honest. So in 2002, we, one of our former coworkers, met Kris at a conference, and they had the expertise that we needed. And so through many conversations, we made the decision, January 1, 2004, we wrote our first guaranteed cost policy. Now, I was not involved at that point, but about 12 years ago, I went from the production side to the operations side, and that's when I started working with Kris in MIS.
Such a long time ago. You know, Sheila, the success story has a lot to do with a type of insurance on the captive side. Give everybody kind of an overview in your words what a captive is and how it's executed.
The way that I'm going to start this is kind of starting from the very beginning. So if you have an insured that has a guaranteed cost policy, they pay their premium, they provide the information, and they're no control. They have no control over their claims. If they're willing to take on additional risk, they move to a large deductible, right? Large deductible, they're taking on additional risk, but the carrier still has the responsibility of providing claims, right? So there's still no control over their claims. So what they may then do is decide to self-insure. You have to be of a certain size and a certain worth, of course, in order to self-insure. But again, that's relegated to that particular state. So each state will have its own requirements for self-insurance. So that works well when you're only in one state. But if you're looking to expand outside of your self-insured state, you're large enough and you want the ability to control, that's when a captive becomes a viable option. The captive provides an opportunity for any organization, be it a group, an entity, a single parent, to form a mini insurance company. And so as a result, we at Midwest Employers decided that the natural progression for us for going from self-insurance to a captive, that just made sense. So we hired some folks and made the decision to take a leap of faith and we're operating our captive.
Mm-hmm. And if I set the tone right, you had a current self-insurance fund that was a current client. and they came to you with an option of they wanted to expand, they wanted to grow, they wanted to be more than what they were. They had a great membership group, but they wanted to take it to the next level. Kind of tell me your vision when your client told you what you were looking for, and then we can get into the solution as well.
Okay, well, Mississippi Truck Food and Fuel is a current excess group that we insure. They started as Mississippi Trucking, and they made the decision to expand, which became Mississippi Truck Food and Fuel. That allowed them to not only handle trucking, but then also service stations, convenience stores. That wasn't enough for them. They decided, you know what, we want to expand outside of the state of Mississippi. And so as their carrier, we offered a cross-border solution. That cross-border solution allowed them at a maximum of 30% to expand outside of the state of Mississippi. That wasn't enough for them. So they decided, you know what, we want to go even further. We want to be able to attract truckers, convenience stores, operations outside of 30%. So let's decide that we're going to form a captive, and that's what they did. What they did is they engaged with not only us as the carrier, but a captive manager, a TPA, and a whole host of folks whose job it is to make sure that they're successful. And so we began that conversation of helping them to form the captive.
As well, of this self-insured work comp fund, it sounded like there was a problem as well because the comp premium has been going down and down compared to the other lines of business such as auto liability. What was the problem that you and the W.R. Berkley group of companies were trying to solve for the client?
Well, when we first decided to start offering a captive, we are excess workers' comp, I've already said that, but we found out that in order to be viable within the captive space, we needed to offer AL, GL, physical damage. But what we wanted to do was lead with comp. We're comp, we know what we're doing. ALGL, we can do it, but we wanted to make sure that the exposure was very vanilla. Well, trucking is not vanilla at all. So as a result, when we were approached by Mississippi Truck Food and Fuel, that was a pause for us. We had to pause and we had to think about, okay, what would be the most viable solution? And so we approached one of our sister companies, Carolina Casualty, provided them with the opportunity and talked to them about the possibility of us working together to provide a solution for our client. And so that's kind of how we started the conversations now. Carolina Casualty, great at auto, but they knew nothing about captives. And to be honest, about 10 years ago, I thought, a captive? Offshore? That sounds illegal. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And there is, because you think of offshore, and if you don't know necessarily, you can probably start thinking about some things that are not correct. So we had to convince them that a captive was a viable solution and that we collectively could make this work for our insured.
And during this process of trying to figure everything out, in the captive, there's a captive manager, there's reinsurance, there's a TPA, there's a back office, and MEC took the lead. When did you decide to bring kind of MIS in as a solution, as a platform for visibility of payments and execution on a billing system?
So I think earlier, and I can't remember who said this, but the solution on paper is only worth what's on the paper, right? But when you have people and you're looking to provide a solution that works best for your client, works best for the carrier, and works best for everyone involved, that's where it becomes important. We knew what we wanted to do, but what we wanted to do is to make sure that our solution was seamless to the client. We wanted to provide a Berkley solution. Although we've got two lines of coverage, or I'm combining auto and physical damage, and then workers' compensation. We knew that was a need. You've got two different carriers, but we needed to present one solution. And so part of that solution is how do we ensure that the customer experience works well? From a TPA perspective, we've got that. But from a billing perspective, when you receive your bill, when you're paying your payment, when you're interacting, that's what we wanted to have, one solution. And so that's when MIS became, it was an idea. I called Kris, I said, hey Kris, guess what? We're gonna write a captive, we're gonna write a captive. And then I said, guess what else? We're gonna write auto, and guess what else? It's another carrier, it's another carrier. And so I kept, but the beauty about the relationship we have is that whenever we come up with an idea, we work together on a solution. We trust each other. We recognize that there are going to be some bumps along the way, but we trust each other. We work through those bumps to get to the other side. And so that's the journey's been a great one.
Well said, well said. What was it like inside of your W.R. Berkley companies to compare, contrast from an external to an internal vendor, a vendor relationship, or doing these items internally?
So given the fact that this is something that's new for us, not necessarily a captive, but two carriers coming together to offer a solution, we wanted to be able to focus on the things that we do well. And we wanted to, although we could bill, it would be horrible, we would hate it, the customer would hate it, we thought, why not bring in the expertise? The technology is there. We know that in working with MIS, when we have some issues, or if we have issues, we know we can work together on a solution that's going to work well for everyone. It wasn't a hard decision. It really wasn't. Our sister company did not want to have anything to do with billing. You guys, this is your thing. You guys bill. You just pay us later. So it provided the opportunity for us to continue on with the relationship that we've already had. We've had it for over 20 years with the trust and knowledge that our solution would work well for everyone. To the client, to us as the carrier, to MIS, to Carolina Casualty. So it really wasn't a hard decision. It was the right decision, but it wasn't a hard decision.
Mm-hmm. As well, achieving this goal, and it's still early on in this process as we kind of onboard this captive with two lines, two different carriers with one kind of solution. What's next for you? If you told me earlier that MEC or W.R. Berkley has 50 plus independently run business units or carriers, do you see this kind of this captive approach, comp and other lines with your other sister companies, being an advantage to MEC, and where do you think it goes next?
I do. We have received a lot of inquiries from some of the other Berkley companies just asking us about what we're doing, because it is fairly new for us, and it's fairly new for us to partner with another Berkley company. We work well together, but to have a situation where we've got an insured and we are collectively pulling everything together is something that's not very common. But now that we know, we've kind of got a prototype for the future. We have some other programs, and I've already told Kris, January 1, we're going to introduce another program. Not a captive, one of our cross-borders that's been giving me the blues, so we're going to bring them into for the billing. But I think what we're highlighting, if nothing else, is through working together, through the trust that we have, and us being able to share with the other Berkley companies, it provides that trust that the best solution doesn't have to be in-house. You have the ability to do what you do well and focus on that, and allow another vendor who has the expertise to step in to help you out. And at the end of the day, what becomes important is the client, right? That's how the client experience. If the client hates your billing process, if the client hates this and hates that, then it doesn't bode well. A captive is a long-term play. It's not something you get in this year and get out. There's a lot of capital that's involved in a captive. And so there's a lot of work that takes place. And so knowing that and knowing the importance of what we're trying to do, it gives us the best opportunity to provide the best solution for our clients, and that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to do that.
Amen. And seeing it from the eyes of your client. If any of you guys been to Mississippi, and think of this, you have a captive or a self-insurance fund, your target is truckers, and you're a woman in Mississippi running the whole show, and Cora Beth is the end user client, right? And I love what you say about trust and everything, but Cora Beth scared me to death, and there was no way we were going to fail on executing what she was expecting. But from your vantage point, once you kind of had that vision for success, and you kind of, now we got a lot of policies under belt, and it's starting to work, starting to run through, what do you think it looks like from Cora Beth, which is the key our end user client? What does it look like from her vantage point in sitting on a platform with 2 carriers, 2 lines of coverages, and one kind of feel to the end user client?
Cora Beth had more confidence in our ability to pull this off than we did at the very beginning, and she's told me that. And so that becomes important when your client has confidence in you as a carrier, and you do not want to disappoint. And she'll tell you if it's not right. She will tell you. But I think from her perspective, she has other things to concern herself with, but it's not necessarily from our perspective how we're running the operation, how we are billing, the policies that we're writing, and the service we're providing. She can focus on the things that are important to her, which would be making sure that her clients are happy, looking for other clients, and proving to the naysayers that she's able to take a fund that was based in Mississippi as a trucker, moving it and expanding to Mississippi Truck Food and Fuel, and now creating an opportunity that allows other truckers outside of the state of Mississippi, and that was her baby. And so for her, having the faith in us as the carrier, having the faith in us as to the solution that we propose, gives her that assurance that we're all on the same team. We're all playing, the goal is the same. The journey may be a little bit different, but our goals are the same, and that's important when you're aligning the goals of the organization with the lines of the goals of the company.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well, in closing, this whole process that we went through reminds me of a show on TV called The Prophet, a guy by the name of Marcus Lemonis, and he preaches the 3 Ps, people, process, and product. And what we went through is, in many phone calls, is we had people that wanted to cause a solution to an end user client that we really had trust in, and they had trust in us. And then the process of constantly going back and forth and asking the what ifs, and then finally, now we're seeing the benefit of that product. So, Sheila Simmons, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.